everybody and welcome back to another video on the channel. We are back again with the tips today. First of all, let's just go through last round, round 1. I got 8 out of 9. The only game I got wrong was the first game of the round, Richmond beating Carlton. I did not tip that, and I don't think barely anybody would have tipped that to happen. My margin, 73 points off, so margin's looking a little bit off the mark early in the season, but I got the rest of the games right. I went all the favourites in round 1, and apart from that first game, all the favourites did win. So I'm off to a pretty good start from the year, 9 from 11 games in total. I think that'd probably put me in a better position than most tipsters. So yeah, for once I've actually started the season off okay. Got one right, one wrong in the opening round. A lot of people I think probably would have, not a lot of people, but there'd be a fair chunk of people who would have got 0 from 2 in that opening round, and I did pretty well in round 1, so hopefully that's a sign of things to come this year. I'm typically not very good at tips and predictions, but can we change that this year? Can I have a decent tipping year? I hope so. Anyways, let's get on with round 2. Starting things off with Thursday night footy, Carlton taking on Hawthorn. Carlton are coming off one of their most embarrassing losses in the club's history. No one expected Richmond to win that game. People were saying Richmond weren't going to win a game all year. And, I mean, they were up by 41 points at one stage. What was the score? 8-49? It just looked like it was going to be a routine belting. And then it all collapsed. Richmond fought back late in the second half, and they just kept going. They looked hungrier to win. They looked fitter. They looked faster. They looked like more polished, which from a team that was just a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds, that shouldn't be the case. Carlton supposedly have one of the best lists in the competition. They had a few outs in that game, but they still should have matched up and easily beaten Richmond on paper. Will they bounce back? Well, I don't think they will. Honestly, I think Hawthorn, what they've showed so far, the 2 games they've played, they look very impressive. They weren't even at their best against Essendon, and they still won that game comfortably. I think they're going to carve up Carlton in this game. You would hope from a Carlton perspective that they show some sort of fight back, but I think that Hawthorn are clearly the much better team. I'm going to tip them by 31 points. The Bulldogs taking on Collingwood. Bit weird. This is a home game for the Dogs, but it's played at the MCG. I have noticed in the past that Collingwood have played a few home games against the Bulldogs at Marvel Stadium, so they're switching it up this time. I don't really know what the deal is there, whether there's any like selling of home games or whatnot. A little bit confusing to me. Someone let me know in the comment sections below if you know anything about that. But this should be an interesting matchup. Both teams played pretty well in round 1. I know the Bulldogs only beat North Melbourne, but with some of the outs they had, there were a fair chunk of people who tipped North Melbourne in that game, and I think the Dogs did pretty well to beat the Kangaroos with some of the outs that they had. Collingwood were terrible in opening round, but boy did they bounce back. 91 points at the MCG against Port Adelaide. Doesn't get much better of a turnaround than that, and they looked back to the Collingwood that we've known in the last few years. So, who wins this one? I think that if Collingwood play like they did against Port Adelaide, or even anywhere near as good as they did against Port Adelaide, I think they should comfortably beat the Dogs, because let's face it, the Dogs, they still are very undermanned, and I don't think they're going to be beating many teams with the injuries that they currently have. Once some of those players start coming back in, I'm sure they'll be a bit better of a team, but I think the Pies should win this one comfortably. I'm going to go by 22 points. Essendon versus the Crows. Boy, did the Crows look impressive in round 1 against the Saints. They really made the most of the wind advantage when they had it. The first and third quarters, they just absolutely slaughtered St Kilda. Their forward and midfield connection was brilliant. Riley Thilthorpe was looking really dangerous in contested one-on-ones inside forward 50. He probably should have kicked a few more goals if he had have clunked a few more marks. Fogarty was looking great. I think he's going to have a really good year this year, Fogarty. Same with Phil Thorpe. And some of their new recruits, I think all of their new recruits kicked a goal, apart from Sid Draper, who was the sub, but all of their players that they recruited from other clubs, I believe Peatling, Alex Neil-Bullen and Cumming all kicked a goal. And the Bombers, on the other hand, well, they probably should have gotten a bit closer to beating the Hawks. They beat them in a few key areas. Sam Mitchell said that Hawthorn weren't at their best in that game, and they still beat them fairly comfortably. Now, the Crows haven't won at the MCG, I believe, since like 2018. Can they do it against the Bombers, who I think they are a much better team than? I think they will. I think this is new year, new Crows. They're looking the goods in 2025, and I think that they should get the job done here and break their MCG drought with a win by 24 points. Port Adelaide taking on Richmond. Well, Port Adelaide, they were shocking in round one. They just didn't look like they wanted to win that game. It's put the microscope on Ken Hinkley and Josh Carr. Surely they bounce back against Richmond. I know Richmond were very impressive in round one, but I don't think they're going to be performing like that every week. They might continue for a few more weeks, play pretty competitively before they start to drop away. But at Adelaide Oval, surely Port bounce back. They have to. I think it could be a bit of an interesting game. I'm going to tip it to be not a close game, but I think that the Tigers will at least take it up to Port. So I'll go Port by 29 points. They just have to respond after their last performance. St Kilda versus Geelong. I think this is probably one of the easiest tips of the round. St Kilda just looked dismal, didn't look like they wanted to be there. Well, Geelong, on the other hand, they couldn't have done anything more to cement themselves as premiership favourites this year, in my opinion. So, yeah, I don't think St Kilda are going anywhere this year. Geelong, I tipped them to be the best team in it. I tipped them to win the flag, and they did nothing in round one to show otherwise. So, yeah, I think they're going to win this one comfortably. It'll be a big margin, I reckon. I'm going to go 60 points. Well, here's another game that could be a very big blowout. Brisbane versus West Coast at the Gabba. West Coast looked terrible. There's no other way of putting it. They arguably were the worst performance in round one. I mean, there were a few teams that really stunk it up. West Coast were high up on that list, that's for sure. Just dismal. They didn't show any signs that they're going to improve this year. I thought with some of the new recruits they had, I know they did lose Tom Barras, but I thought that they would improve slightly this year. They did nothing, absolutely nothing to suggest they would be going anywhere in 2025. The Lions, well, they got their first hit out of 2025 out of the way, just beat the Swans. I think there's still areas for the Lions to improve on, but now that they've got that first game out of the way, I think that they are going to be a very good team this year. They're going to absolutely spank West Coast in this game. Let's go 80 points. Like it's going to be an ugly one, this one. North Melbourne versus Melbourne. This could be a bit of an interesting one. I think North Melbourne, while some would say they should have beaten the Dogs, I still think they showed signs of improvement. And the D's, well, I thought they looked pretty impressive, to be honest. Even though they lost that game, I thought in parts of that game they looked very slick, very organised. Petrarca looks back to his best. Oliver, better than he was last year. And their new debutants, they all looked pretty good as well. I'm going to tip the D's in this one, but I wouldn't be surprised if North Melbourne could pull off an upset win. It'll be an interesting game for sure. I'm going to tip it to be a close one. I'll go Melbourne by 10 points. North Melbourne should really take it up to them, but I probably just don't trust North Melbourne to win enough. They haven't won enough in the last few years. They haven't shown me that they even know how to win in these tight, close situations. So, yeah, I just have slightly more trust in Melbourne. So I'm going to tip them by 10 points. And now for the final game of the round, we have two winless teams here. The Dockers got spanked other than that third quarter and a 6-minute patch from Murphy Reid. Just just looked abysmal against Geelong. I thought they'd really take it up to them, but they didn't do that at all. The Swans, honestly, I think we've looked pretty impressive. Maybe not impressive, but I think I haven't been too disappointed with how we've performed in either of our losses. At Optus Stadium, I think Fremantle should bounce back. I'm pretty sure they're going to get a couple of players back for this one. You'd hope for their sake that they put up a better performance in front of their home crowd. And I think they are going to win this one. So I haven't tipped the Swans yet so far this year, and that is going to continue. I think we'll still go okay in this game. I'll tip the Dockers by 13 points. I mean, I want us to get a win on the board, but I just, with some of the outs we've had, I just don't quite trust us, and I think Fremantle should bounce back. So that is the end of round 2. The ladder, I'm not sure how much you can read into it at this stage of the year, with a lot of teams having played a different number of games to other teams, and we're only a couple of rounds in, or a few rounds in, with that opening round as well. That is going to be this video done and dusted. I hope you did enjoy. Comment down some of your tips for the upcoming round in the comment section below. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you did enjoy, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.